a storm rumbled over Mount Olympus, sending tremors through the halls of the gods. The sky above was no longer its usual tranquil blue. Thick, swirling clouds churned with divine energy, casting eerie shadows upon the golden temples and marble pillars that lined the celestial mountaintop. The scent of ozone and burning embers filled the air, as if the heavens themselves sensed the impending conflict. The gods had gathered in hushed anticipation. Seated on their thrones, the divine council watched in silence as Ares, the god of war, strode into the great hall. His crimson armor gleamed like freshly spilled blood, and his presence alone radiated an aura of aggression that sent shivers through the lesser deities. The flames of the torches flickered wildly as he passed, as if the very air recoiled from his presence. At the far end of the hall, Zeus, the King of Olympus, sat upon his throne of gold and ivory, his stormy eyes locked onto his son. He had ruled the gods for ages untold, his wisdom stretching beyond mortal comprehension. His body pulsed with raw power, the scent of lightning and storm trailing his every movement. He did not flinch as Ares approached, nor did he display the slightest hint of intimidation. Instead, he exhaled slowly, as though he had foreseen this moment long before Ares had even spoken his first challenge. Ares stopped just a few steps from his father's throne. The god of war's breath was steady, but his fingers twitched, eager to grasp his spear and begin the battle. His chest rose and fell with controlled fury. This was not just a challenge for power. It was a declaration of war against his father's reign. He had spent eons fighting battles on Earth, watching as kings rose and fell, empires crumbled, and blood stained the lands. Yet, despite his unmatched strength on the battlefield, he had always been treated as second to Zeus. He was a tool of war, not a ruler. Today, that would change. The silence was suffocating. The gods did not dare to interrupt what was about to unfold. Even Athena, Ares' lifelong rival and Zeus' favored daughter, did not move from her seat, though her fingers gripped the arms of her throne. Hera's gaze flickered between her husband and son, her expression unreadable. Hephaestus, the god of the forge, stood motionless, his hammer resting against his leg. Then, without warning, thunder cracked overhead, splitting the sky. The sound was deafening, echoing through the hall like the war drums of 1,000 armies. The challenge had been accepted. The moment stretched infinitely before the first strike was made. Ares moved first, his body blurred into motion, his feet barely touching the marble floor as he lunged forward. His crimson spear aimed directly at Zeus' chest. The god of war was an unstoppable force, his speed unnatural, his strength unmatched by any warrior to have ever walked the earth. But Zeus was not just any warrior. In the blink of an eye, the king of the gods raised his hand. The air crackled with divine energy, and before Ares could close the distance, Zeus unleashed a blinding bolt of lightning. The thunderbolt erupted from his palm, streaking through the air with the fury of the heavens. The hall exploded with light as the bolt struck Ares square in the chest. The god of war was hurled backward, crashing through a row of golden pillars. The impact shook the foundations of Olympus itself, sending shockwaves rippling across the realm. Lesser gods gasped and recoiled as marble debris scattered across the battlefield. Smoke curled from Ares' armor as he staggered to his feet, his body steaming from the divine strike. Zeus remained unmoved, standing at the center of the devastation he had created. His expression was unreadable, but his posture spoke volumes. He was not going to hold back. The battle had begun in earnest. Ares wiped the blood from his lips, his golden ichor dripping onto the ruined floor. His lips curled into a grin. He had expected nothing less. With a mighty roar, he slammed his spear against the ground. The earth beneath Olympus trembled as cracks spread like spiderwebs, glowing with molten fury. Fire erupted from the fissures, sending plumes of smoke and heat into the air. The once pristine battlefield now resembled a war-torn ruin, fitting for the god of war. Ares leapt, spinning his spear with inhuman precision. The weapon, forged in the fires of Tartarus, burned with the essence of 1,000 wars. He swung it with the force of a hurricane, aiming directly for Zeus' head. Zeus raised his gauntlet arm, catching the spear mid-swing. The collision sent shockwaves through the heavens, warping the very fabric of reality. The sky above Olympus cracked, revealing glimpses of the cosmos beyond, as the sheer force of their clash threatened to tear through the boundaries of the divine plane. The two gods stood locked in place, muscles straining, eyes locked in an unspoken challenge. Then, with a twist of his wrist, Zeus snapped the spear in half. Ares' eyes widened in disbelief as his weapon shattered, fragments scattering like dying embers. But even unarmed, the god of war did not hesitate. He lunged, his fists clenched, ready to strike his father with brute force alone. Zeus, however, was already preparing his next attack. With a simple motion, Zeus lifted his hand toward the sky. The heavens responded instantly. A vortex of storm clouds gathered above, swirling with unnatural speed. Lightning arced across the sky in jagged veins, illuminating the battlefield in a chaotic dance of light and shadow. Then, with a flick of his wrist, the storm fell upon Ares. 1,000 bolts of lightning crashed down at once, each carrying the fury of the storm god himself. The impact was catastrophic. The ground beneath Ares caved in, sending him plummeting into the molten chasm below. The force of the attack sent shockwaves racing across the land, splitting the marble courtyard in two. The battle had escalated beyond the realm of gods. It was now a war of cosmic proportions. The skies above Olympus twisted and writhed, reality bending under the sheer power being unleashed. The very air vibrated with divine energy, causing the surrounding mountains to crumble into dust. The mortals below cowered in fear as the heavens raged, their prayers drowned beneath the roar of the storm. But Zeus was not finished. Standing at the edge of the ruined battlefield, he raised his hand once more. From the storm itself, he summoned his ultimate weapon, the true thunderbolt. The air hummed with power as the weapon materialized in his grip, glowing with a light so pure it burned through the darkness. He took aim, and then he unleashed it. The bolt streaked downward like a falling star, its light blinding, its power undeniable. It descended upon Ares with unrelenting force, striking the god of war as he attempted to rise from the molten abyss. The explosion consumed everything. A deafening silence followed. Smoke and dust swirled in the aftermath. And in the center of the destruction, lying in the ruins of what had once been a battlefield, was Ares. Defeated, Zeus stepped forward, his divine presence unchallenged. The storm receded, and Olympus, though shattered, remained under his rule. Slowly, Ares stirred. His breath was ragged, his body weakened, yet his spirit remained unbroken. He forced himself onto one knee, his fingers digging into the scorched ground as he lifted his head to meet his father's gaze. His eyes, though filled with exhaustion, still burned with the embers of defiance. Still standing, Ares muttered through clenched teeth. His voice, though strained, carried the weight of his pride. He had fought, he had challenged, and though he had lost, he had not surrendered. Zeus watched him for a long moment. His stormy gaze flickered, not with anger nor disappointment, but something far deeper. Ares had always been the embodiment of war, his very essence forged in the fires of battle. But war, by its nature, was not meant to rule. It was a force, not a throne. "I did not seek to destroy you," Zeus finally spoke, his voice resonating like the heavens themselves. It was not a declaration of triumph, nor a taunt of victory, but a statement of truth. "But you are not fit to rule Olympus. War does not govern, it consumes." Ares exhaled sharply, his jaw tightening. He knew the truth of those words, yet it did not quell the fire in his heart. He had sought to prove himself not as a mere weapon, but as something greater. And yet, even after unleashing all his fury, he had still been brought to his knees. Zeus turned away, his eyes scanning the heavens. The storm began to calm, the skies clearing as balance was restored. He had proven once more why he was the king of Olympus. Ares, though defeated, did not waver. He knew this would not be the last battle, nor would he remain in chains forever. War was eternal, and he would rise again. But for now, he had lost to the might of Zeus, and Olympus remained under the rule of the Thunderer. The end.